Hello, my name is Ashley Brown, and today I'm going to be teaching about two of my favorite writers, Ernest Hemingway and F. Scott Fitzgerald. Coincidentally, both of them were part of the Lost Generation. The Lost Generation was a phrase coined by Gertrude Stein, who, after one day seeing her mechanic have trouble completing the work on her car, she asked him why, and he replied, "Well, I'm just part of the Lost Generation, unable to work, unable to focus." Now, this became kind of a general idea for a group of people, men and women, who grew up during the First World War and were disillusioned. They saw this huge, horrible thing happening for the bulk of their adolescence, so they had this sense that morality was gone. In the literature world, the Lost Generation was mostly a group of expatriates that moved to Europe to live this bohemian lifestyle. So, because he is my favorite by a slight margin, we're going to start with Ernest Hemingway. Mr. Ernest Hemingway was born in Illinois in 1899, and he grew up in a suburban lifestyle, but he often frequented a cabin in northern Michigan where he learned many outdoorsy type things like hunting and fishing, and you'd later see this as like a popular subject in his novels as he liked to have a lot of adventure. And he got his first job at the Kansas City Star, and it's here that he learned to write very simple declarative sentences. It was used throughout his entire prose style, is that he liked to write very unvarnished, simple, to the point. And that's what I actually really love about his writing. Here's a quote from one of his novels that presents his simple and unvarnished style. At only 19 years old, Hemingway went and served in World War I. He was an ambulance driver in Italy, and he was soon after injured, so about a year later, at age 20, he returned back to America, and he married his first wife, Hadley Richardson, and then they moved to Paris to join the Lost Generation. In 1925, Hemingway and his wife joined a bunch of expatriates on a trip to Pamplona, Spain, where they participated in the San Fermin Festival. This festival is concentrated on the running of the bulls, and it was here on this week-long festival that Hemingway's idea for my favorite novel of his was born. This novel is called The Sun Also Rises. Shortly after the publication of The Sun Also Rises, Hemingway divorced his first wife and married Pauline Pfeffer, who he was already having a relationship with. And throughout his 30s, he mostly spent his time having adventures, doing big game hunting in Africa, bullfighting in Spain, and also as a correspondent in the Spanish Civil War and World War II, where he met his third and fourth wives. Hemingway's novels were based on his wartime, A Farewell to Arms and For Whom the Bell Tolls. They both were nominated for Pulitzer Prizes, but that was not finally awarded to him until he wrote The Old Man and the Sea. He was also awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1954. Since he was such an adventurous man, Hemingway often sustained injuries. It was from his time in the war, or even his own adventures where he sometimes got into plane crashes. Unfortunately, his physical injuries often caused mental anguish, and suffering from high blood pressure, liver disease, and depression, Hemingway took his own life on July 2nd, 1961. Hemingway once said, "It is my aim to put down on paper what I see and what I feel in the best and simplest way." And that is exactly what he did. He wrote these amazing novels based on his real-life adventures. And whenever you read them, you can see the truth in all his words. While Hemingway wrote in a very simple style, F. Scott Fitzgerald wrote with many grand and ornate details. Here is an example of his decadent style. F. Scott Fitzgerald was born in Minnesota in 1896. He was a very bright boy, and he attended a prestigious high school and later Princeton University. In 1917, he left university early to join the First World War, but the war ended before he was ever deployed. published novel was This Side of Paradise, which was about a man who was rejected by multiple women from high-class families. It was basically an autobiographical story, and it was very well received. It actually helped win the hand of his lifelong love, Zelda Sire. Fitzgerald loved being famous, and he rode his celebrityship into a wild lifestyle. In 1924, while partying in France with the Lost Generation, he wrote his most famous novel, The Great Gatsby. It is said to be the quintessential novel of the Roaring Twenties. Unfortunately, his wild lifestyle led to the downfall of his work. He suffered from alcoholism, and his wife suffered from many psychiatric problems that had her in and out of the hospital in the late 1920s and early 1930s. In his later years, he tried his hand at screenwriting and freelance writing, and he received mild success, but he died in 1940 at the young age of 44 from a heart attack. Fitzgerald once said, "You can stroke people with words." This perfectly describes his writing style. When you read Fitzgerald, it's like reading against a beat. It's like a song reverberating against your mind. So there we are, a short lesson on some brilliant writers. I hope you can read them and enjoy them as much as I do.